Happy Tuesday, everybody. This is the Longhorn Confidential. Danny Davis, the American-Statesman. As always, I'm joined by Kirk, Bohls, Cedric Golden. Guys, we have a jam-packed show today, so let's skip the pleasantries. Let's get right into it. Kirk, me and you were in Manhattan, Kansas this past weekend to watch a 34-27 victory by the Longhorns. Kind of got rid of some of their road demons, got rid of some of their demons against ranked teams. Didn't make it easy, but let's kind of start there. Said Kirk, what were kind of your initial reactions to watching the Longhorns pull that out? Said you were at the A&M game as well, so you got to see one Texas team not do so well. But we'll talk about the Longhorns here. Said we'll start with you. What did you think about the Longhorns pulling this one out?
Surprised the hell out of me, Daniel. I picked K-State to win by 6. Texas just they look so good in the first half, and it's just so weird because it's 31-10, and the whole Longhorn Nation's going, yeah, and used to that. And so when they close at 30, when they close at 31-17, that's the scary score, but they figured out a way. And the second half struggles are still there. And I know you're writing about that this weekend, Daniel. But they won. And it's easier to coach them up. You can coach them a lot harder after a win. And this may have been a corner turner for them. They may have turned a corner with this win. They gutted it out and they got the dub, and that's all that matters.
Yeah, but they can't gloss over that second half malaise, as you said. I mean, they scored one field goal against Kansas State, one field goal against Oklahoma State. I think it was when we were at Lubbock, Danny. What was that? Two field goals in the second half, one on the last play of the game by Bert Auburn. So almost three field goals the second half of three games, and they didn't score a whole lot against Alabama either, did they? In the second half, and obviously it was 2019 game. So I picked them to win just because I figured they're desperate. They're gonna win. They're due. And they looked as good as a top 10 team, I think, in that first half. And K-State's a good team. They were ranked 13th, a tough place to play. Adrian Martinez, was healthy and looked pretty good at times, but they couldn't have played any better in the first half. In the second half, all that offense went away, and it seemed like they just don't have that energy, that buzz offensively in the second half, and just kind of pucker up. But I don't know, Danny. You think it's mostly mental, or is it play calling, or what is it?
I think you could probably check a lot of boxes. Steve, when we talked to him on Monday, and I think it's Bijan and maybe Roshan mentioned this too, but there are some self-inflicted wounds. There are some dumb penalties and some, pre-snap
Right.
things that makes those 2nd and 5, 2nd and 10s. It makes things a little difficult, more difficult. The other defensive coordinators get paid money too. And they've been able to make adjustments, and that just Texas just hasn't. So I think it's a matter of Steve probably has to call some better plays. The players have to execute and not get those silly penalties, and also just I guess keep your foot on the gas. And this is a team that's all gas, no brakes, and it seems to be in the second half kind of putting on the brakes and being a little bit conservative. But we'll see if they can do that this upcoming Saturday. If they have a lead, the team that they're playing is a pretty good team. So I don't know if we can just assume Texas is going to be up by double digits in the second half. TCU is coming to town. Texas with the win this past weekend moved to 6-3 overall, 4-2 in Big 12 play, and they're now tied with Baylor and Kansas State for second place in the standings. They control their own destiny. If they win out, they're going to be in the Big 12 championship game. Got up to number 18 in the AP poll. They're still 14 spots behind the team that's going to be in town this week, and that's TCU. TCU is 9-0, 6-0 in conference play, off to its best start since that 2010 Rose Bowl season. Let's start with the Horned Frogs. Obviously, a coaching change, and we'll talk plenty about that. But let's talk about the guy who's currently in Fort Worth, Sonny Dykes, coming up from SMU. He's done a really good job with this team. But what stands out about what Sonny's done? What is like the one thing that you look at and you're like, man, that was a pretty good job. He may not be the Big 12 Coach of the Year because of what's happening in Kansas, but let's talk about what Sonny's done. Kirk, we'll start with you.
Well, the offense has just been dramatically improved, and that was part of Gary Patterson's problems when he was at Fort Worth. They were known for their defensive prowess, and offense, kind of hit or miss. And it's interesting that Max Duggan is just going crazy. He ranks 25th in the country, 24 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. I mean, those are Heisman numbers. I'm sorry. And it's funny, guys, that, he wasn't even the starting quarterback. They picked Chandler Morris as a starter to start the year. And then Max Duggan didn't transfer, didn't pout. He
Could have
just
left.
he could have left. He bided his time, and look, he's a Heisman candidate. If we really think seriously about it, they're undefeated. I mean, there's not much to like. Now, I think their defense is taking some hits. Looking at the stats, they're 73rd in scoring defense and 86th in total defense. So, and it's so funny, guys, is that they're the consummate second half team, unlike Texas. I mean, they get behind every game. Weren't they behind K-State like 28-10?
At the house, 28-10.
Yeah, at the house. But boy, they're a confident bunch. And boy, you better have some killer instinct if you get a lead on these Horned Frogs.
I just think it's a sexy matchup. The
Yeah.
consummate second half team against a team that's a consummate first half team.
Mhm.
It's almost like the tortoise and the hare. You just expect the Horns to run out to like a 50-yard lead, and then you're gonna look up around that bend, and here come the Froggies. I think it's going to be a fourth quarter game. I think if Texas scores 3 points in the second half this week, they're going to get beat.
Yeah.
They're going to get beat.
Right.
It's not going to be enough because it's a veteran group, and they're basically a mirror image of Texas offensively, except that Max Duggan has been far more consistent than Quinn Ewers.
Mhm.
They have their own superstar running back in Kendre Miller.
Very good.
They have some good receivers, and so it's going to be which team takes care of the ball, and both have taken care of the ball pretty well this year. Quinn had his hiccup, but he was decent last week. So it's going to be the team that takes care of the ball late, the running back who has the better game, and somewhere down the stretch, the quarterback, either be Max Duggan or Quinn Ewers, going to have to make a big boy play to get this win. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. I'm looking more forward to this one than I was looking forward to the Alabama game. Real talk.
Yeah, it's been interesting just to see kind of how Sonny's been able to get these TCU players to buy in. I mean, we saw this TCU team last year when they played Texas, and Bijan ran all over them. So we know how not good of a team TCU was. Sonny knows how not good they were. I mean, SMU beat TCU last year. They were picked to finish 7th, I believe, in the preseason polls. I guess it just shows how much us media members don't know. But 9-0 is 9-0. That's really impressive, and that's definitely a good job they've done. And we'll see if they can keep it up. Because if they get past Texas this week, I mean, you could really make an argument that that's a playoff team. I think they'd have to get past Baylor the following week, but that's a clear path to 12-0 if they can get out of Austin with a win-this victory. The game on Saturday, 6:30 p.m. on ABC. College GameDay will be on campus in the morning. So if you had fun with that at Alabama, you can make yourself a very, very long day on the Texas campus with all the festivities that'll be going on. But we got to talk about it. Patterson Palooza. Obviously, Gary is working here at Texas now. Kirk, I know you're writing about that for this weekend. Lots of Gary Patterson questions on Monday to the players. And Steve, the players were obviously coached very well because they were not giving us much whenever Gary's name was brought up. So shout out to the coaching job by John Bianco and his crew, because the players they didn't bite. They can be undisciplined sometimes on the field, but they were very disciplined with the media members on Monday. But we've talked about this before. This defense is playing better. How much credit does Gary Patterson get for that, or do we need to be shifting that focus elsewhere?
Yeah, we probably need to focus it on Kwiatkowski, I think, because I mean everything the players and Sark was telling us on Monday was, well, he can't coach at all. He can't do anything on Saturdays. He can kind of be in meetings, and I got this vision of Gary Patterson sticking Post-it notes on players' lockers or in the coaches' offices, and like he's there from midnight till 4 a.m. and breaking down film. But it's funny because I was asking Sark, has Gary been working on TCU and beating TCU 24/7 this entire season? And he kind of turned that to praising Gary's work ethic. Said, "Oh, I think he's 24/7 on beating everybody." And we were joking and said, "Never joking, like all the players were downplaying it. Yeah, he's a great guy, great defensive mind. He knows these players at TCU recruited him, but it's no big deal and everything." And so said that we're talking about. Well, I could just see Texas beat TCU, and they're carrying Gary Patterson off the field on their shoulders, But it's no big deal, no big deal. So,
No big deal, but the little general's getting carried off.
I mean, we do. It's such a mysterious thing that I think he deserves some credit, but it's Pete Kwiatkowski's defense, good or bad, I think.
And do y'all
What do you
think, I got to ask y'all this. If they beat TCU, they're going to rush the field. I don't think they are. Jim Vertuno thinks they will from AP. I do not see. That's beneath Texas. A win over TCU is not going to be a field storming. They would have stormed the field had they beaten Alabama.
Yeah, Gary Patterson will storm the field.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
I don't know. What do you think? We talk about Gary all year long, you two. I mean, how much credit do you think he deserves, or blame for that matter?
Well, he deserves some credit. You asked Snacks Colbert and Keandre, the hero from the K-State game, about him. Coach Davis is my coach. Coach Davis is my coach. Right. That's it. Coach Davis.
Yeah.
And then he begins to, he erected a statue to, a burnt offering to Coach Davis. But I know the popular thing is to give GP credit and to blame PK when things go wrong. But I really believe that Gary Patterson has been an integral part of everything that's gone on in there. And I know a couple of people close to the situation that told me GP's very involved. They will always downplay it, but he's very involved. And he knows these players they're playing against, and his footprints will be all over the proceedings. Will it be enough to get a win? I don't know. These guys are playing as well as anyone in the country, and they're the surprise team in America, them in Kansas, I believe. And Texas is going to have their hands full. And right now on Tuesday, November 8th, I don't know who I'm picking yet.
Yeah, I've said it before. I'll say it again. I do think that Gary credit is overblown. Whenever Texas has a bad game on defense, no one says anything about Gary Patterson. People still want to fire PK, but no one says anything about a bad game plan that Gary helped design. But obviously, having him in the room can't hurt. Having his knowledge and having him as someone you can bounce stuff off of, not only the defensive staff, but Steve as well. I mean, that's an asset to have in your program. But I would say, a second year in PK's scheme is probably the most beneficial thing to this defense. Then you look at that last play at the Kansas State game. Look who's on the field. Ovi was on the field. That's a fifth year guy. Keandre was on the field, fifth year guy. DeMarvion, Deshaun Jameson, those are fifth year guys. More Ojaman was on the field. Jalen Ford is probably maybe the best defensive player in this conference. That's a third year linebacker. I just think those guys growing up, getting some experience, becoming vets on this defense. I think that's those two things I would credit more than Gary Patterson, although I'm sure that he has helped the situation, and Texas is glad to have him on staff. I also think that this is one of those things where Steve's policy of having assistants not talk to the media hurts the assistants. I think if people were able to talk to Pete and people knew him a little bit more, maybe people would be more willing to give him credit or able to ask him questions about what he's doing defensively and stuff like that. But people know Gary, people don't really know PK, and I think that is maybe a reason why more credit is shifted towards Gary than PK. But I don't think Steve is going to change his mind or his ways just because of how perceptions are with his defensive staff. But that's just kind of my read on the situation.
I tried to get an interview with Gary Patterson, and John Bianco said no interviews with assistant coaches. And I said, Gary's not going to show up on the game day desk for an interview, is he? And John said, no, they tried. They wanted to interview him, as does everybody, but they said no go. So I guess Sark rules, and we'll see how much impact Gary does have on Saturday.
We'll see about that game day thing.
Maybe
Duck.
maybe Gary will be the celebrity picker.
Yeah,
Enough about the coaches. Let's talk about the players. We've mentioned a couple guys, Max Duggan. We've mentioned Kendra Miller, but who is, if you can talk about those two if you like, but who is one Horned Frog that you were keeping an eye on this weekend?
Quentin Johnson for me,
Yeah,
boy.
go ahead. Yeah.
He's one of the best wide receivers in the country,
Mhm.
not just the Big 12. And I imagine you two would agree with me. He's been talked about like a first round draft pick. And boy, he got great hands, great routes. And I know he only played like a series against Texas Tech. And so, his status is in doubt. Sid and I are supposed to speak with Sonny Dykes on our podcast this week. So maybe we'll, see what information he gets. But I think they've got good receivers, but boy, I think he's just the head of the snake, don't you, Sid?
Yeah, I do. But the guy, Max Duggan, is the straw that stirs that drink.
Oh, yeah.
And we know that quarterbacks who can move around and run have given this defense some problems. And Max Duggan is moving and grooving. He's dropped some weight. He's in better shape. He's making people miss in the open field. I'm not as I am not as worried about him if I'm Texas as a passer than I am as a guy that can move the chains with his feet, making those plays off schedule. That's going to be the thing.
Well,
And
they're
this is
used
a
to that.
real interesting study of quarterbacks. Quinn can run a little bit. Quinn is not a spot. I mean, he's not a sloth. He does prefers not to, but he's shown that he can run a little bit. But Max Duggan can change games with his feet, and that's what PK and GP and Bo Davis gonna have to be really cognizant of because um, you can make all the right assignments, make all the right reads, and diagnose everything right. But a quarterback that can make plays off schedule can give you fits, and that would be the thing that would keep me up at night the night before the game if I'm the Texas defensive staff.
And they're used to seeing those guys, Spencer Sanders, Bryce Young, the Tech quarterback, Adrian Martinez. I mean, they're used to seeing dual threat quarterbacks. So
Frank
who you
Harris.
focusing on, Danny?
I'll break the tie. Obviously, Max Duggan has beat Texas twice. He is a good quarterback, and no Texas fan should be overlooking him. But I'm looking forward to Quentin Johnson. I hope he's healthy. I hope he gets to line up against Ryan Watts. I just hope
Ooh,
that
that's
matchup
hot.
happens. That would be a
That's
lot of
hot.
fun to watch. And if Quentin Johnson catches the game-winning touchdown pass, Steve can go back in his locker room and blame Gary Patterson because Gary flipped Quentin because Quentin was at one time a Texas commit when he was out at Temple High School. So we can, I guess I'll credit or blame Gary regardless of what happens because if the defense, stops TCU. Gary can get some credit, but if Quentin Johnson has a good game, I guess Gary gets some credit there too. So either way, Gary Patterson shining this weekend. But let's shift from the football field. Obviously, number 18 versus number 4 matchup is big, but there's some other stuff going on campus. This is a busy weekend. We're going to start basketball. You two were at the Moody Center last night for the first official basketball game at the Moody Center. Texas, which is ranked 12th in the preseason AP poll, beat UTEP by 15 points. Overall impressions of this Texas team, overall impressions of the Moody Center. Just what'd you think when you guys were out there?
Great. It's a wonderful venue. The crowds were wonderful. We got a little issue with our seating that I think that we can fix, but that's neither here nor there. But just a beautiful arena. Guys were slipping around, Daniel. You'll. I wonder if that's going to happen when the girls play on Friday. But guys were slipping around a lot on that floor, and of course, Beard didn't want to talk about it, but Overall, just a wonderful atmosphere. I know Duck's doing a story on the atmosphere on the building. As far as the team's concerned, some new faces: Jabari Rice, Tyrese Hunter, Dylan Mitchell. Those guys are going to be fun, and they join those old heads who are back: Marcus Carr and Christian Bishop, Timmy Allen. Um, Brock Cunningham. They're going to be really, really good. They're going to go 10 deep, and can they score enough? I think they're going to be able to score enough. But I give it an A. Because who cares what the media thinks about seeding? Everywhere else, I give it an A, and it's going to be fun. And Duck, you remember this? Coach Joe Golding of UTEP goes, "They got this ain't no concert arena. They got them a basketball gym now," and that was kind of cool.
Yeah, it seemed like an NBA arena. I mean, it was, over 11,000. The seating capacity is supposed to be, I think, 10,763, but they have a standing room only up in the rafters
The
section. They had
party
about
pit like the Cowboys.
Yeah, I had about 600 students up there. And the thing I like about this, and I'm writing about it for tomorrow, is that, if you think of the lower bowl, 360 degrees, students sit in 270 of those 360 degrees from baseline to baseline and behind both benches. And that's something Texas never had. Didn't have that at Irwin Center, where,
Get those wine and cheesers
yeah.
out of the hot spots. I
It should be
like
for
it.
the students. It should be for the
I
students.
like it.
And they've got this, corral, they call it. Matthew McConaughey was not there, by the way. So they're catering to the students, and that's the atmosphere, Chris Beard built in Lubbock, and he's trying to build here in Austin. So there was a lot of energy there. And, like said, I think they'll be able to score. Chris was talking about they only scored 72 points against UTEP and said, well, I think we probably could have had 80, but we were trying to control the game and win it there at the end. And UTEP's not a bad team. They won 20 games last year, and Joe Golding knows how to beat Texas. So, but they got so many athletes. I don't know how many great shooters they have. I think Jabari Rice is going to be a great shooter. Marcus Carr still kind of iffy up and down, but going to play good defense, or you're not going to get on the floor for Chris Beard.
Houston Christian comes to town on Thursday. That crowd may not be as excited as the following Wednesday when Gonzaga is here, for it should be a great matchup. For whatever reason, all these games are at 8 or 8:30. I'm not really. I guess they're not tending to those of us who'd like to go to sleep at a reasonable hour. But head on to the Moody Center for that. This season, you mentioned a couple players. Who is one player for both of you that is going to be the key to success for this Longhorn team?
Me, Tyrese Hunter. He's a real point guard. They finally have a real point guard, and they can play Marcus Carr off the ball now, where he's probably going to be more effective. And Tyrese Hunter can break down a defense and get easy shots in the paint. He's 6 feet tall, but he plays a lot bigger. He can distribute the ball. He's an Iowa State transfer. He knows these Big 12 streets. I really think that he's going to be the head of the snake on this team. And they have a lot of talent, but the guy that's got the ball the most is going to be the most impactful.
Yeah, he's going to be a big key. But I love Jabari Rice from New Mexico State. Played 4 years there and has played in the NCAA tournament. Knows how to win. Joe Golding was going on and on. And Jabari Rice said, "Yeah, I played UTEP 8 times, in my career at New Mexico State, and UTEP's sick of him. But he's a guy that can get his own shot off, and that's the thing with him and Tyrese. They got to be able to get their shot or create their shot, because it's in the Texas team. You dump it inside to a 6'11" guy because they don't have one, and just create offense that way. So they're going to run more. Chris Beard was very pointed about that. We're going to push the tempo. But I think Jabari Rice could be, said they got to have that one guy we got to have a bucket. They're losing to Kansas by 1, 12 seconds left. Who gets the ball? And it's probably going to be in Tyrese Hunter or Jabari Rice's hands for that last shot. I don't think they trust Marcus Carr unless he's playing in an NCAA tournament game. So, but right
In the
now,
Midwest, yeah.
my money would be on Hunter or Jabari Rice. I think take that last shot.
Let's talk about the women, the Texas women. They start their season on Friday. This will be Vic Schaefer's third season, first two Elite Eight. So they're trying to get past that hump, get to that Final Four. Same question we just talked about the men. Who is one? Who is the one Longhorn who's the key to success? There's some returners who could be the answer. There's some newcomers who could be this answer. Kirk, we'll start with you.
Well, Roy Harmon is the head of that women's snake, and boy, she makes that machine go, and just a terrific player. And she's going to score. What she had about 11 a game last year, but 5 assists, 4 rebounds a game, so she can do it all. She's going to fill up the stat sheet. But I love a lot more. Out of Oklahoma, she's a sophomore. Missed a lot of time with, I guess it was an ankle injury last year, but she really came on in the NCAA tournament. And, they almost knocked off Stanford, which won the national championship. So I think her presence down low could be a huge difference maker for Vic Schaefer's bunch. And, I'm sure Vic's making that goal of Final Four. He's not settling for Elite Eights anymore, and he's won 50 games in 2 years. So I think a lot more may the big key to me.
I think it's Aaliyah, but that's a cultural thing. Just as long as you spell it right. Roy Harmon is that girl. She is that girl, and I think she's gonna have to score more this year. She's shown she scored over 30 in a game, and she's shown she can score the ball. And I think that she's gonna have to take on a little bit more of a selfish tent when it comes to playing this position. Interested to see what the Shea Gonzalez is going to do. The transfers from BYU, she can fill it up. Western Coast WCC Player of the Year, I believe. Scored a ton at BYU. We'll see if she can get her shot off in the Big 12. That's a deal. That's a real deal. They play harder defense in this conference. So if she can get her, I like to look at it this way. If she can get her shot off in practice, then she'll be able to get her shot off in the Big 12. Because, Vic Schaefer is going to test her, going to find out what he's got. She's a big guard. She's 5'10". She's mature. She's from Dallas area. So this is the homecoming of sorts for her. Whatever can take the heat off of Rory and Aaliyah Moore is going to be great. Now, Daniel, what's the latest on Kendall Hunter? What's the latest on her? Because we know what she can do.
She's still away from the team for personal reasons. Vic seemed kind of optimistic that they may get her back at some point last time we talked, but those situations, you never know. You just hope the players and the youngsters are taking care of their mental health and
absolutely
doing what they need to do. But to answer the questions, it is Aaliyah. And she's my answer. Obviously, Rory. She's incredible. These two, they brought in some good shooters to help this offense, but Texas is not beating South Carolina unless they can, handle Aaliyah Boston. And that's going to be partially Aaliyah Moore's responsibility, partially Deanna Gaston's responsibility, Taylor Jones, the transfer from Oregon State. So they're going to need some big play in the paint. And those three, led by Aaliyah Moore, who came on really strong at the end of last season, are going to lead that charge. But obviously, this is a team that they're going to have. Shea Holley deserves to be in this conversation too. They're going to have, 7, 8 players that they're going to depend on, especially come March, and some of these freshmen that they're going to want to step up as well. So, I mean, it's a deep team, maybe a little bit deeper in past years. They need to figure out what they're doing defensively. Vic is not happy with how they're playing defense right now, but Vic is never happy with how his teams are playing defense. That's not
Vic is never happy.
That is also true. But they did lose probably their two best defenders in Audrey Warren and Joanne Allen Taylor. So they kind of need to step up, and Rory Harmon is going to lead that charge. But let's talk about the other sports before we get out of here.
Before you get there, no one is going to stop Aaliyah Boston. That's just not happening. Not until she gets to the WNBA, and it's still going to be a problem for whoever lines up against her. She's a beast. She's a beast. And she will win Player of the Year again. She's a beast.
It helps that Paige Becker's out for the year with UConn, right? Who they play Monday.
Not worried about. You weren't worried about Paige before. I mean,
no, she's a hell of a talent.
South Carolina is that squad.
Oh yeah, they're number one for a reason.
Yeah. Go ahead, Daniel.
There's a lot of talent in the women's basketball game, but yes, Aaliyah Boston is, I think, the cream of that crop. But there's some talent down the way, including at Texas. But Texas volleyball, they're home on Wednesday against Iowa State. Same Iowa State team that beat Texas a couple weeks ago. So I'm sure there's some Longhorns looking for revenge. They head to Oklahoma on Saturday. Texas is back to being number one in the ABCA poll. Was off last week because of some illnesses at TCU. They had to forfeit that match. Texas hasn't played in a little bit, so we'll see if there's any rust on Wednesday night. Texas soccer. They'll be home on Friday. The women's basketball team plays at 7 at the Moody Center over at Myers Stadium at 5 o'clock. Texas is hosting Texas A&M in their first round game of the NCAA tournament. So good luck parking in the Manor garage. If you have a pass to that garage, it should be quite congested and quite fun. And then signing day is on Wednesday for all the non-football sports. So baseball, softball, the basketball teams, you can get to know your future Longhorns on Wednesday. On Thursday, the On Second Thought podcast will drop. Kirk, you hinted at it. Big guest this week. Is there anything else you want to say about the podcast before we get out of here?
Well, we had to miss last week. Sid lost his voice in Indianapolis cheering for Sam Ellinger, I guess. So we're itching to get back behind the microphone, and hopefully Sonny D will lay some knowledge on us.
Sonny D. It's happening.
All about the frogs.
We're going to get out of here. Busy week on campus. We hope you check out statesman.com throughout the week to see what we're writing, whether it's basketball, volleyball, soccer. We had a soccer story in today, or online today. I think it's going in tomorrow's paper. But lots of content. Obviously on Saturday, we'll have all the Texas TCU coverage. All three of us will be at the stadium for that one. And we'll be back here next Tuesday for another Longhorn Confidential video. Thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. We'll see y'all later.